Hello. Are you guys so excited? Everybody's got their horns, right? Why are we wearing horns today? Because I'm not that bossy, Mark. Come on. No, we're wearing horns to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Catherine Labonté's Adopt a Glass Pet Day. This is a day we have been working for 10 years. And this year, to celebrate, and I'm going to let you in on a secret. For 10 years, I've been asking Catherine Labonté to make a unicorn, and she said no for 9. But this year, we have a unicorn. So, to celebrate today, we're all going to wear horns. Come down and get one if you don't have it. And we're going to be welcoming Catherine Labonté to the stage in a minute. She's a real friend. She's an amazing artist. And she's someone that the museum has been so proud to work with over the last 10 years. So please join me in welcoming Catherine Labonté. All right, so we're going to have a jam-packed demo. It's going to be high energy the whole time. We're going to have T-shirt giveaways. We all have horns, and they're making a unicorn. So please enjoy.
Alrighty, folks. Make some noise if you have ever seen glass blowing before. Now, what about, have you ever seen this team make glass before? Woo, great. And this team is moving right along. These folks have been working together for years. We've got Cat Labonté as our artist for this project, but then we also have David and Francis as the team that's coming in. And let's give them a big round of applause as our glass team here. Now, they started working a little while ago because it takes a while to wind up this much material. I asked before we started this demonstration, how many gathers of glass did you get from the furnace for this piece? And they said 4 good-sized gathers out of the furnace, which is a great indication of how big a piece would be. If you're a glassmaker and you go home for dinner or go find other glassmakers out in the wild and you ask them, how many gathers of did that piece have? You have a pretty good idea of how big that piece was. 2 gathers is something pretty medium-sized like we see up in the front or during demonstrations. 1 gather is a pretty small piece, but they've wound up a good amount of material for this. Now, they've done a couple other things to this. They've put in the jack line by the pipe to separate it from the blowpipe. They've also separated out a little bit of material for the face of our unicorn here. And they're grabbing it with that tool there, the diamond shears, to stretch it out into this lovely head shape that we see over here in our drawing. And if you folks have a chance to take a look at that drawing over here in the corner, that's one of the things I love the most about Cat Labonté's work is all these beautiful drawings that we get. Did anybody out there today get a little glass animal from Cat? We did? Oh, that's so cool. And one of the things I like about it is that you get to name them too. What did you name it? Snowball, that's such a cute name. And all of these different animals have different names to them. And we, as a group, are going to get to name this one here. But we can think about it for a little while. If you're thinking about different names, what could it possibly come to? But we've just started this out, so we've just stretched out that little nose. And the next step is to add on a little bit of material for decoration. For the body of this piece, we use a color bar or a solid chunk of glass color that looks something like this, a much bigger version of this 2-inch chunk of color bar here, a really big chunk of bar to spread across the surface of the glass to give it this nice, even white backing to it. But there are lots of different ways to add color. With these solid chunks, you preheat them and you spread them over a bubble. But we're also gathering up a little bit of color to roll in some frit here. So there are some crushed up pieces of concentrated glass color in this little pan here. And what that is tiny little pink chunks of glass. And it's pretty perfect for a beautiful unicorn like this because they look like tiny little sprinkles on it as well. And by just rolling that glass through those little sprinkles, it's stuck right on the surface. And the other exciting thing about this pink glass here is that pink tends to be one of the most expensive colors that we work with. Blues and greens are made with things like copper or with cobalt or with iron for green, but for things like these bubblegum pinks and these hot pinks, that's with a little bit of gold chloride. So you actually mix a little bit of gold into the glass, and that will tint that glass to this beautiful pink color. But for our piece, we'll have a little clear chunk in the middle and then spread all of that pink color around the outside of it, building it up in layers, kind of like painting a house. One layer doesn't look quite as even as several layers of that paint. And while they're doing that, this team is just getting that all situated, keeping it at just the right temperature. Because one important thing to know about the process of glass making is that when glass is hot, it's a little bit expanded. And as it's cooling down, it's contracting and it's shrinking a little bit. So if we see the team use this fluffy torch here, this warm propane torch, that's just to warm up certain areas, especially the back end, because it's the first thing out of the reheating chamber and the last thing into the reheating chamber. Now we're going to get this nice and hot and bring this bit over to put on as the next decorative element of this piece here. So they'll do that by getting that glass nice and hot, bringing it over, and then plopping it right on the nose of the piece. And this is going to be the little front of the face for our unicorn here. So you add it on, and then you can shape it and squeeze it around. Now, where you cut it off, there's usually a little mark to it, so you can do things like smooth it out with a torch and warm it up once again. But I heard that there is a special step on our sheet over there, on our beautiful drawing, called Feed the Unicorn. And so I think to get that to look really nice and even, we're going to feed this unicorn. And look at that, nom, 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 eating that little bit of frit to cover that little cut mark on it. What do we think about that, folks? How fun is that? And what a delightful way to work, to feed a unicorn as part of your practice. And it's so exciting that Cat Labonté's here to show us making this unicorn. And if you've been around, you can see that she's got all of these design ideas and all these beautiful, cute little creatures from over the years, like hedgehogs and octopus, unicorns and penguins. And there are so many different creatures that she's come up with and made in special ways, like feeding them little bits of frit. Now they smooth it over, and they're just shaping up this nose just a little bit. And they're even inflating that nose a little bit. So they've heated it up and puffed it just a little bit to make sure that it's just the right shape. And they're using this tool here called the tag to smooth it over and shape it. It's just a flat metal paddle. And they're shaping up this little unicorn nicely. Now, one other thing to know, we're adding on bits like this where we're adding a little nose or adding maybe things like a little mohawk or possibly ears, but there's actually quite a few pieces of this unicorn that were already pre-made that are in our oven over here. So you can do things like add on bits and then warm up certain areas to keep decorating them and maybe poking them inwards to add nostrils or to add maybe a lip or a mouth. So we take those tweezers and just poke in two little spots to use as the nostrils of this little unicorn. And one thing about Cat too is that these pieces all have little personalities, little souls to them. And so as we see all of these parts coming together, we'll get to know this little unicorn a little bit more. Now they've added in those little nostrils. They're going to heat up the bottom, and I can see from the drawing that there's a little bottom lip to it too. So we'll shape that up a little bit. But while we're we're shaping that up, as we're getting all of these little bits of personality, I see that we've written down a couple names from our live stream, but do we have a couple of in-person names? What are we thinking? Do I have any names out there? What do you think? Lydia, that's a fun name. What about you? Rainbows? Great name. I love it. Rainbows. Did you get Rainbows and Lydia? Okay. What about other folks? Any other names? What do we think? Well, say that again for me. Celestia. I love that. Very fancy. What do you think? Sprinkles. Sprinkles is also a great name too. Celestia and Sprinkles. Let's make sure that we're getting them all written down. Don't worry, I'll get you in just a second. I see you hopping up there. Did you get Sprinkles? Okay. What about up there? What was your name? Catherine? Will someone shout it down for me? Pinkberry? Cupcake Berry. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the translation down. What about you? What was your idea? Lily? Lily. So we got Cupcake Berry and Lily. What are other ideas? What do you think? Say that a little louder. Kristen. I like Kristen. Crystal. Crystal. Okay. What's yours? Sweetie? Sweetie. Crystal and Sweetie. Let's see. Did we get them all written down up there? Oh, I misspoke on this one. This one is actually Crystal. All right. What do we think? What do you think? Cow? Cloud is much better than cow. Cloud. Cloud. All right. What do you think up there? Susie? Susie's good. All right. Do we get Susie on there? All right. What do you think? Jeff. I like Jeff. Jeff's a good one. All right. All right. What do you think up here? Yeah. Captain Chewy? Captain what? Captain Cutie. Captain Cutie is very good. All right, so let's see what the team is up to. Don't worry, I'll come back to you in just a second. But I talked about all those pieces being pre-made, and where they are right now is in this piece of equipment over here. This is called our garage, and our garage is sitting at around 1,000 degrees, 1,020 degrees. So it's pretty hot inside of this oven, not hot enough for it to change in shape or get sticky, but hot enough so that when we're ready to add an ear on or a horn on, we can go in, scoop it up, and then warm it up a little bit in this secondary reheating chamber over here. We call this piece of equipment over here in the corner the garage. It's where you park things to be picked up later. And as we're talking, they also heated up a little spot for that ear to stick on. So that little spot that we're heating up right here, that's to get that ear nice and stuck right there on that spot. Ooh, and it looks like we're doing the horn right now. So they've warmed up the horn just a little bit. And then Kat will pick that horn up and stick it right there on that spot that she just heated up. That looks pretty cute. What do you folks think about that? All right, now I promised someone I would come back to them on the name. So who had a name in mind? What was your idea? Genevieve? Genevieve. All right, Genevieve. And what about you all the way up here? Odenstein and Genevieve. All right. What do you think? Shadow. I like that. Now we can see she's heating it up and adjusting that little spot there. And it looks like we're going to add on a little bit more pink material. If we see on our drawing over here, we've got the mohawk, we've got a horn, we've got eyes and a nose. So we're gathering up that material out of that furnace over there. Now our furnace sits at that 2,100 degrees, and inside of that furnace is a big ceramic bowl called a crucible. So to get that glass out of the crucible, you have to go in there at an angle and turn very quickly. And this glass runs like honey when it's this hot. So if you were to stop turning for even a second, it would slip and fall off the other side. So we'll take that glass, roll it through this colorful stuff right here, and while they get that all rolled up and preheated, this team over here is keeping their glass nice and safe. Now, what do you think? Should we see if anybody might want a t-shirt out there? What do you think? Does anybody, maybe someone small, want a t-shirt for a kid's t-shirt? So if you're a kid and you maybe want a t-shirt, why don't we get all here up in the middle close together? Instead of throwing it out into the crowd, we could all come stand in the front of the stage, come up close. So come stand right over here for me. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to have you stand here, but I'm going to go a little further away, and then I'm going to throw it to you guys over here. And while we're doing that, they're adding on that little fin there. All right, so what we'll do, this will be our little line right here. Why doesn't everybody stand behind this little line right here? All right? Those are all the kids that we want the t-shirt for. So stand behind right here. Everybody come on this side of my hand over here. All right? Do you want a little t-shirt? Why don't you come over here? We have some more people trickling in. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw it from behind. And whoever catches it wins. All right? All right. Now they're working right along, adding on that little fin. And I'm going to turn around, stand right here. And I did not practice this, so if this is a bad throw. All right, let's give a big round of applause to the kids here. All right, 2 people caught it. That's pretty tough. So what we're going to do is rock, paper, scissors. All right, rock, paper, scissors. You guys got this? Or all right, what we're going to do, we're going to do an official rock, paper, scissors. There you go. You got this. All right, let's give a big round of applause to the team. Now, if you do not have a little horn, I will let you know we have plenty left over here, but there's lots of horns over here, just so you know. But look at what this team has done while we were distributing t-shirts over here. They took a little blob of pink glass and then used a tool to shape it up into this cute little mohawk shape for our little licorn here, or what is the French for unicorn. Now they're adding a little bit more up on the top. Yeah, please take a horn. And ooh, what are the questions online? All right, we actually don't have any questions online, but how about in the audience? Are there any questions out there that I can answer? All right. Well, we've been making these glass animals here at the museum for about 10 years. There's lots of different animals that we've made in this way. Kat's been doing this for a long time, making these little creatures coming in. And they typically work in the same way, where you have some pieces that you're adding on with little bits like this, shaping them with a tool or with some tweezers. Sometimes there are little bits that are added on later. And we have this beautiful drawing over here that tells us which is the next step, what we're going to do next. And this torch here, I mentioned our fluffy torch, or the torch that gives a general heat to the back end. Maybe if there's a spot that's a little bit looking cold or that they're worried about, they can warm it up with this fluffy torch that Francis has here. Now, that hot torch that we have in Kat's hand, that's to make a really hot spot in one specific area. If you've been to one of our flame working demonstrations today and seen them made little animals or little creatures with a torch, this is the exact same torch. A natural gas and forced air torch to get up to really high temperatures, but just a slightly different version of it that's handheld as opposed to machine made. What do I have over here? You have a question? Ooh, this is a great question about how heavy is this glass here. Now this glass here is a pretty big piece of glass for what we work with, and it probably is sitting at maybe 10, 15 pounds. So it's heavy, but imagine that not only is it that much weight of glass, but it's on the end of a pole. And where Tom's holding it on that pole is nice and cool. That pipe that he's using is made of stainless steel. So stainless steel doesn't get particularly hot, particularly far down, because it's not a great conductor of heat. It tends to stay located down towards where the glass is. But as they go back in for these reheats here, where that glass is getting warmer, that pipe is also getting a little warmer over that time too. So Tom may have to hold it further back sometimes, and so your point of leverage changes it. It's the end of a long stick. You can use things like this pipe cooler right here to cool down that pipe, make it a little bit easier to handle. Yes. Lulu? Lulu's a cute name. Lulu. Let's add Lulu onto that list of names over there. Were there other names or questions? What do you think? Sparkle? Spark? Just Spark. Okay. Lulu, Spark. What was your question? Charlotte. All right. Let's see. What do you have over here? Adam. I like Adam. What about you up there? Kevin? Kevin's good too. Now they're adding on these little ears here. So they're heating up little spots, and they're going to add on each of those little ears individually. And Kat will pick them up with her hands in these lovely mitts here. Those mitts protect her hand from any of that heat that's in that glass, so that she can place it on and see what it looks like, get it to just the right spot. Now, while she does that, Tom's often popping back up and reheating this glass, making sure that it stays just the right temperature. And we'll notice that not only do they use that fluffy torch on the back end of it, but they also might warm up the ears or the tip of that horn too. Because this glass over time cools down, and those ears and those tips are a little bit thinner. They have less thermal mass or less stuff in them to keep them nice and hot. So you have to make sure that they stay nice and warm throughout the process. Now, were there any other questions or names out there that I could put down? Yeah. Audica? Audica. Love it. Beautiful. Oh, Audica. Is that right? Did I get it right? Autocon? Okay. Unicon. Wait, will you spell it for me? Oh, A-U-R-C-Y? A-U-R-C-Y. Got it. Thank you. Now they're heating up a little spot for the eyes. And yesterday when we added the eyes on, that's when I really felt like I knew the personality of this little critter, when we had those little eyes that they were now seeing and looking back at you. So they're warming up that little spot, and the next step is to add on those little pre-made eyes that we have over here. Now we have those facial features coming together, our eyes, our nose, our ears, but there's also a couple of important things that we'll be adding on too, like a tail and feet and legs. So all of those things are going to come on after we actually switch which direction we're going at this with. So we will be puntying this or changing the direction that we have on it. We add all the ones that we could reach to on this side. And they add it on. And blow just a little bit. And I think that's so fun. Yeah, let's give a big round of applause. I love the eye. Yeah, I did. Oh, I missed a couple letters. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. Auricorn, I'm getting it now. That's such a cute name. Thank you. Here, I have a change to a name that I spelled.
Oh, got it. Okay, we'll just add it.
Perfect. We'll keep the old name in just in case, just out of happenstance, if someone likes it. Now, while they're working, you might notice that Abigail over here is also opening and closing those doors with each time that they go in and out. Our fuel source here is natural gas and forced air to get up to these high temperatures of 2,000 degrees. But having all of those doors open, it does start to lose its heat over time. It's like leaving your door open when you have the air conditioning on. And then you have to shut the door because then your house isn't cool anymore. So it's a similar thing. And Abigail is doing a great job opening and closing those doors, which is important. Now they're working right along, adding different bits. What are we thinking? Do we have other names out there that we want to add to the list? I haven't looked up here much. Did anybody up there want to add a name? No? Now, what's really hard about these eyes and adding on bits like this is that they're round. And that might not seem so hard, but we see that David's carrying this over on a little paddle. And it's pretty easy for something round to just roll right off the end of it. So he has to go and heat it up and be very careful that it doesn't twist around and fall off the end of that. He's also taking little reheats in this reheating chamber over here because our garage is sitting at about 1,000 degrees, which is a great temperature to keep this glass at to keep working with it. But you have to raise that temperature just a little bit so that the piece doesn't crack or anything bad happen to it. So he's taking good care of it and being very careful that that little round eyeball doesn't just roll off the end. And then they'll add that little eyeball on. We've got a beautiful face to this adorable little unicorn. Yeah, let's give another big round of applause to the unicorn. Now we can get a really good look at the face of this unicorn when it's up here in the reheating chamber. We have a special window on the back end of the reheating chamber that gives us these beautiful views into it. And I don't know that it's ever been looking at me quite so much as it is right now. Looking right at ya. Now they're gonna get all those temperatures to the right spot. They have all those little pieces added on. What else do we have on here? We've got eyes, we've got front, we've got legs and a tail. And you can also see up here on the drawing there's little measurements to how big all of these things are. So you can plan it out and have it look just right at the end, all the proportions just right. Now, oh yeah, take as many little horns as you want. There are lots of them. Now, as they're getting things all set up and situating everything, I do have another t-shirt here. And this one is an adult size. So what I'll do, I'm just going to throw it out into the audience in general and hope for the best. But just a heads up to everybody out there in the audience, I'm going to throw something out there. The temperature of the furnace, this is a great question. Do you want to guess how hot it is? Perfect. It's 2,000 degrees. So 2,000 degrees is a great temperature for our glass to be at. It's hot enough that it's nice and runny, not so hot that you can't be in control of it. It's a great temperature to keep it at. But I'm going to throw the next t-shirt. Yeah. So do you guys want this t-shirt? A little more, yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm going to throw it onto the audience. Unless you want to throw it onto the audience. No, you don't. Okay. Again, artist, not sports person. All right. Do you want to throw it? Oh. All right. Just throw it onto the audience. Francis. Yay! Perfect. Thank you. Ooh, and it looks, yeah, let's give another big round of applause to Francis for coming all the way here, making this class, and being the excellent t-shirt thrower. But it looks like they're heating up the first spot for one of those legs here. And what's so tricky about these legs is that it's going to really change the weight of the glass. They're going to add all these legs on, and because there's so much more glass on this one side, it's going to make it harder to turn that glass. Most of the glass that we see is all nice and symmetrical, nice and round, because we're always turning it, keeping it on center and rotating it. But as we add these legs on, they're going to change how that works. So they heat up that one little spot, and they're going to add that little foot right where they heated it up to the first little leg of this little unicorn. And yeah, you got the right idea. Let's give a little round of applause to that leg. Oh, it looks so cute. Now, the other thing that makes this hard is with the addition of that little leg, you have to open up more of those doors to get it all in there. It would be easy to accidentally touch that little foot to the side of our reheating chamber. And it's kind of like that game Operation. If you touch the walls and the sides, it will get stuck on there. There won't be a buzz, but there will be a little bit of refractory cement, which is what our glass is made out of. And it looks like I have a question up here. What's your question or name? Do you have one? No worries. Did you have a question up there? Say that a little louder. Name. What's your name? Okay, I'm going to wait till the fluffy torch is not going to ask you the name. Okay, what is your name? Catherine. Is Catherine up there? Good, we got it. All right. Now, so with the opening and closing of those doors, you have to be very careful to make sure they're always getting closed, because the bigger the door is, the more heat gets let out as you open them up. So now they'll heat up that next little spot to add the other leg onto. And I like how much cat and this little unicorn match today, both having their little horns, getting all dressed up. Now you go and you pick up the next leg, take a little reheat in this reheating chamber, and then very carefully bringing it over so that we can add it on. Now it's tricky. One of the ways as a glassmaker you know how hot something is. Pause. What are we thinking? Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I took your map. I have no idea where I put it, but I'll get it back to you. But one of the things that is very tricky about being a glassmaker is that you have to tell how hot your glass is. And the way to tell how hot glass is through basically educated guessing. Getting that glass too hot sometimes, getting it kind of soupy and changing the shape of it. Getting that glass too cold sometimes, letting it crack and break. So this team has been working together for years. And Kat's been coming up to the museum for 10 years to do these demonstrations and has been making glass like this for a lot longer than that, 20 years of glass making, and has a lot of experience with a lot of different glass processes through that. So they're very good at guessing at this stage, but that's pretty tricky to do, especially in what David's doing over here, heating up those little feet. You don't have them on the end of a pipe, you're not turning them, and that's a lot of how we tell how hot things are, by how much that glass is moving. Is it sinking very quickly? Is it falling just a little bit? And it would be easy to heat it up too much, get it stuck to the pan, and have it be hard to take off and be a little dented. So he's doing a great job attaching those on.
Can I make a request?
Yeah.
Can we say a shout out to Catherine?
All right, I just got word from online that Mia and Julian, Catherine's family, are watching the live stream right now. So what do you folks think? Do you want to do a big shout out to Catherine's family here? Let's do it on the count of 3. A big shout out. 1, 2, 3. Yay! Hi, Mia and Julian. Very cute. And they're heating up some spots, making sure it's sealed in nicely there. Smoothing out any edges. Now, another tricky thing about this glass here is that it's white glass. And white glass is a very tricky glass to work with for a couple of different reasons. Number one is that white glass actually tends to be quite a bit stiffer than other colors of glass, which I think is an interesting quality of being a glassmaker, that different glasses feel very differently. Something like a cobalt blue or a black glass will get hot very quickly. It'll get really soupy and it'll move around a lot, whereas a white glass or an opaque glass might take a little bit longer for that heat to build up in it to be able to move it and change the shape of it. So it shows you how much work that these folks did to get it nice and even and nice and well shaped with this white glass here. Now, another thing that's tricky about white glass is also the same reason why I don't wear a lot of white t-shirts, because it's very easy to pick up a little blob of something and have it be very visible. So they're very careful to make sure that when they're shaping it on a steel table or where they leave that white glass, that it's not picking up any imperfections or any different colors or spots. And when they heat up little spots, they may be smoothing over areas, cleaning up different spots here and there. And this torch here, this hot torch, is a great way to warm up certain areas. So far we've used it to heat up the spots that we add those little feet on, but they're also using it to heat up the jack line here, which tells me that they might go back in, squeeze it in just a little bit more to help it get off the end of the pipe a little bit more easily. Water break. Yeah. Oh, this is a great question. What's the heaviest piece of glass that they can use on these pipes here? And this one is a very solid, large workhorse pipe. It's a big one. And they do get even bigger than this. You can get really large in diameter pipes to work with. And those pipes, you can make pieces like this that are big, but there are other ways to increase how much mass you can build up as a glassmaker. There's this tool called the chariot, where it's a little crossbar that will help you lift that glass up. You can have multiple people picking it up and bringing it from place to place to make it a little bit easier. Because right now we have Tom turning and lifting that glass quite a lot, but if we had a unicorn the size of Tom, it would be very difficult for him to pick that up all by himself. So there is a way to increase the size of it by increasing the diameter of the pole, by using that tool, the chariot. And they always stick to the end of the pipe. It's really more about the glassmaker being able to control that material on the end of the pipe. If you go out into our collection and see pieces that are much bigger than this, then they may not have been blown in this way. There are other ways to work with glass, through lost wax techniques or through kiln forming, making a mold that the positive, what you're planning on making, is made out of wax, putting a mold around it, and then taking that wax out and backfilling it with some glass. That's another way to work at a larger scale. Alrighty, folks, we have another shout out there. I'm going to start by more formally introducing David here. This is David Lavoie, Frigon Lavoie, right? And I heard that David's niece Molly and that Lou are at home watching this demonstration. And is it true, does Molly also want to be a glassmaker? So why don't we give a big round of applause for our team and our family of our team? And that's so cute. And so thank you for coming all the way up here and helping us make this beautiful thing. And also a big thank you out there to Francis over here. Francis, I'm going to remind myself, Kupal. Francis Kupal is here, who's also here helping us make this. So let's give another big round of applause to him. Previously seen as a t-shirt throwing extraordinaire, also a great glassmaker too. Wow, they're working right along. They have reinforced that jack line just a little bit, squeezed it in, and it looks like they're adding some of those front legs there too. And warming it up. And I can see on the drawing that those front legs are a little bit taller and longer than those back legs. So heating up a spot of it. Shaping it up, rounding it out. Now, as Tom goes, we have a picture of the drawing up here on the whiteboard. I can't remember which step, but one of the steps says, feed the unicorn, and that one is my favorite step. I believe it's step 5. Now, we talked about the weight of this glass a little bit by how far up Tom can hold that But he's also using this piece of equipment right here, that yoke, and sliding along with it. That also changes that point of leverage to make it a little bit easier to hold and to turn by pushing that yoke forward. But another thing that makes Tom's job tricky that we talked about a little bit is now we have a lot of glass on one side of this. All those little legs are solid, adding more weight on that side of the piece. And we'll see that Tom is really flipping this piece more often than he's turning it at this stage. When we work with these really symmetrical objects, we're probably always turning. But when it comes to some of these other shaped things, like a unicorn, you would flip it as opposed to turning it, because you would want those legs to be falling from side to side rather than spinning around and getting all twisted up.
Has Kat been working with her team? She's been working with David for almost 15 years, and Frances is sort of new to the team, but she's had her independent studio for over 15 years. She's been working with glass the whole time, and she's, but that was one of the questions online, and that's the answer.
All right, so one of the questions that we got online, folks, is how long has the team been working together? And Kat and David here have been working together for 15 years. And they've been working together for 15 years. And Kat has also had that studio for about 15 years. David is a little bit newer to the team, but they've been working together for a long time. That was one of the questions that we got online. And for you all folks out there, if you do have any questions, grab my attention. We know lots about Kat. We know lots about the team. If you want me to even just transfer a message down to the team about how cool and great they are, I'm happy to do that as well. Now, another thing that makes this a fun shape is that we have 4 little legs to add on there. And they've done a really careful job measuring all those legs before putting them into this little garage over here. Done a careful job making sure that they're all just the right length for this, which can be very tricky to do, to get something to stand beautifully the way this beautiful little unicorn will stand. Now they bring over the last leg. Kat grabs it, places it right there on that spot, and our unicorn has all of its little legs. What do you think, folks? Now it looks very good prancing along. We've got almost all the elements pulled in here together. And they'll even out all those temperatures, make sure that all of the legs are around the right temperature. Yes. Ooh, this is a great question. How far in advance do they make all of these pieces? So for these pieces, these were all made on Wednesday or Thursday. So they made them all a little bit ahead of time, and they actually brought them fully down to room temperature through annealing, or the slow cooling process. So they made all of these pieces ahead of time, and they also made a lot of extra pieces. So not only did they make these all ahead of time, but they made several more ahead of time so that you could compare the eyes. And this morning when Kat came in, she was comparing eyes, comparing legs, and matching them up so they were well suited to one another. So they make them all ahead of time. They put them away into this oven here, and they bring it all the way down to room temperature slowly. This morning, we took all of those little parts and we brought them back up slowly to rewarm them and get them ready to go for this process. Because just as glass cools and shrinks, and you want it to cool evenly enough that all of the molecules of glass can cool at the same rate, you also want to make sure that all of the molecules of glass expand at the same rate. So you can't heat them up too quickly because they could pop and come off. Now we're working right along, using that fluffy torch to make sure that all of the little spots, all of those little edges are nice and warm. And I believe that David over here or Francis over here is starting to gather up for the tail of this piece. So winding up a little bit of material, coloring it in that crushed up frit over there, the same color that we use for the other pieces of it. And it's so easy to add color on in this way, to just roll it through those little pieces. And we tend to layer them quite a lot. With just one pass through it, you could still see a polka dotty, speckly effect, but you want to get it nice and concentrated, a nice even color.
Okay, last request. We have room for like 5 more names.
All right.
Don't forget to mention the suckers for sale, as well as all of her other work.
Yeah.
You can do that like when it's appropriate. You know what I mean?
All right.
This is exciting. We're almost there.
Now we're almost there, folks, and there's room for about 5 more names throughout this process. So if you have any names, now is the time to holler them out and let us know about them. And we're getting to the point where all of the pieces are almost all pulled together. After it's all made, we will be putting it into the annealer, the oven, to cool it down slowly. And you'll be able to see this piece later because it'll still be quite hot as we all leave the room today. Now there are lots of other versions of this cute little unicorn here. There are some with tattoos. There are some that are bigger and some that are smaller. So if you've totally fallen in love, all of them are available in the gift shop to go and get your own little one. We also have creatures from other times, different animals for you to adopt and take home with you. There are more t-shirts over there. And another thing to note too is that it's also all available online. So if you go home and you realize, oh, I should have got myself this adorable little critter, don't worry too much. You can go and get it later. But it looks like our team is suiting up here for that final step. They're going to break it off the end and then add that little tail on. Tom has got all the gear on, or what I assume is Tom, because he's all suited up with all this Kevlar and in this big space suit with these big mitts on. They're then going to carefully break this cute little unicorn off the end of the pipe, bringing it over here to this break-off station with fiber fracks to cradle that glass with. And they'll carefully break off that pipe. Yeah, let's give him a big round of applause. And then Kat heats up that little opening, making sure that it's nice and smooth around. And then Francis comes over with this fresh pink glob of glass that they're going to sculpt into that beautiful tail by taking that fresh piece of glass, sticking it right on that opening, cutting it free, and then shaping it into our beautiful tail shape. Cutting it off. Going in there with a little air to smooth it out, to cool it down just a little bit. And then cutting it into this adorable little tail shape. Stretching it down. And what do we think about that? How cute is that little tail? Now, where they cut it off could have some sharp spots, so they go back in with that torch to smooth out anything. And the last and final step is the slow cooling process. So we whisk it away into this oven over here for slow cooling and safekeeping. What do we think about that, folks? Yay! that. Beautiful. Yeah, with that all made, we have to find a name for it. So, who gets to decide? It's Kat. And there are a lot of good options out there. We've got Trip and Charlie, Adam and Kevin, Sprinkles, Catherine, Aurora Corn. Lots of good names. And it would be a hard choice to decide. Lots of charm in that critter. Ooh, Richard. Pointing out Richard. That was my grandpa's name. Catherine. Aww. Yay. That's you. So if you want to see Catherine or Catherine later on, you can. But let's give a big round of applause to our team here.